Alright, so I'm going to try to make this quick because it is about to rain. So I'm making this update video because I have done a little bit more work to the sound system and I'm very happy with where it is right now. I also replaced the sub with a different sub because I had issues with it. And I wanted to update the previous video where I provided the wiring coloring codes for the tweeters because I discovered for the driver's side that they were actually not valid. Now that one I will take fault for because I just took what I found on the forum and just trusted that it was accurate and I should have checked. Since I did this update, I discovered that that wiring was not correct, but don't worry if you installed it the way I showed in the video. As long as you installed that filter, you should still be fine. On the driver's side, basically we just tapped into the speaker's main wires instead of tweeters. Passenger side was correct, so just to give a quick correction on that. So the driver's side speaker wires are the purple/brown, or the purple striped with brown is the positive and the blue yellow is the negative, and the tweeter on the driver's side is purple is positive and yellow is negative. And then on the passenger side, the speaker is purple with white stripe is positive and blue is negative, and then the tweeter on the passenger side is purple striped with green as positive and yellow is negative. So the first and most glaring update I want to talk about is the sub. I replaced the Kicker Hideaway sub. Even though I was running it at significantly, like basically the bare minimum gain you could put on the sub and a very low setting on the bass boost knob, it was starting to sound like this. I did talk to some people at Crutchfield, which is who I bought the sub from, and I have done car audio systems before, so no, it wasn't just a setup issue. Either something was defective with the sub, or it just wasn't adequate for the kind of music I'm listening to, because I listen to bass heavy music and I really want more punch, not just to raise the low end. So if you install the Kicker or you're looking at the Kicker, it's really only going to be suitable for if you just want to take like your low end here and bring it up to like here. If you want a lot more punch, then you're just going to have to go with something else. And so that's why I replaced it with this Rockford Fosgate 10-inch powered sub enclosure. Now this thing has been absolutely awesome. I can get just so much more bass out of it without even really having to crank it that high. I also just installed the wires a little bit more professionally and routed the sub control knob to the phone charger or the phone holder pocket thing in the center console because I don't use that. So the next significant thing that I did that I would recommend everyone do is I replaced the rear speakers only. I left the door speakers the same. I tried quite a lot of different speaker combinations on the front with a bunch of different 3D printed adapters to see if I get anything to fit without actually cutting away the plastic like you've probably seen in the forums, because I just don't want to do that to this car. Unfortunately, I couldn't make anything work. But if you replace the rear speakers, which are mid basses, with full range speakers and power them with an amplifier, it just completely changes everything. So the issue with the mid basses in the rear is that most of the time they're not putting out a lot of noise, and they're not putting out, you know, mids and highs. It's just bass signals essentially. So all your sound is coming from the front of the car and from the door speakers, which is really low. So the sound stage sounds really low and just doesn't sound good because of that. So by putting full range speakers in the back and powering with them with a separate amplifier, you can actually bring the music basically to right behind you and up. And now you're bringing the soundstage higher and creating a more surround type environment. And then the other thing I did too, which I think helps a lot, is the dash speaker, which I don't think I've seen anyone talk about yet, is another 3-inch KEF speaker. I replaced that with a 3.5-inch Kicker speaker. And that also, just because it has a little bit more presence than the KEF, just helps bring the soundstage up again more closer to your ears and just creates a much better surround type listening experience. I'm not going to go into how I installed any of this stuff. It was just so much effort to make the last video, and taking the car apart, you know, significantly more than last time just wasn't really worth the effort, especially with the heat wave going on right now. But I will mention that if you're thinking about this, for wiring the amp, basically I just took the speaker wire signals, or the speaker wires, same exact location we tapped for the tweeters in the door jamb or door pillar, whatever you want to call it, and then routed that back to the rear shelf where the amp is installed, and that is actually feeding the high level input on the amplifier. The other thing I want to mention too is for the rear speakers, I did design and 3D print a speaker adapter to adapt the Kicker KS 5¼ inch speaker that I put in there to the factory mounting hole. And I will provide those files, the STL files, in the video description for free if you want to download them and print them yourself. I printed them out of ASA, which is pretty much the best material you can use for an automotive application. It has the heat resistance, it has UV resistance. It's designed basically for like car applications. It's going to be better than any kind of PET type material. Those have a lower heat deflection temperature usually, so it's pretty easy to print, and it costs basically the same as the other materials. So another thing that I corrected that I want to mention, which was a concern expressed in the comments, and I 100% agree, is that velcroing the sub to the back was just a dumb idea. I wasn't really thinking about it when I did it. Velcro didn't hold really well, and it also creates a hazard of when you're braking, it could just fly forward. So in this one, I put a lot more effort into the attachment method. I used magnetic latches, which are called Fidlocks. They're great, so you have a bottom or like a base clip and a magnetic screw, and the screw goes into the base, and it cannot come out unless you pull like this buckle clasp thing all the way out, and then it detaches it. So I have 2 of the Fidlock screws actually installed through the bottom panel that the shelf panel that the sub sits on, and then I have the bases attached to the bottom of the sub, and then I just have some Velcro along the back and the bottom towards the rear just to help give it a little extra rigidity, and it has been amazing. It does not move at all, and I still have the option to remove it if I need to use that space. So I hope that was a helpful update. I apologize it wasn't another in-depth tutorial video. Maybe some of you are glad it wasn't, but yeah, I hope that was useful. I think this was a huge upgrade, and it was definitely worth the cost and the effort. And if I was to go back and do it again, I would not just do the sub and the tweeters. Replacing the rear speakers to bring the presence to the rear just made the sound system what it should have been in the first place. Now, I haven't listened to one where they replaced the door speakers as well to know if that's actually worth the effort to go through. But yeah, leaving the door speakers as is and having the rear speakers replaced and kind of elevating everything else is more than adequate. I actually don't even notice that the front speakers are bad. They actually sound really good in the sound system now overall. All right, so that's enough of me rambling. I hope you guys thought this video was useful, and please like and subscribe. Thanks.